Blood and Stuff. So November the 12th, 2025, AEW Blood and Stuff. We're going to be talking about this show. It's only 3 matches, brother. So if you like War Games matches, maybe you like this. There's parts of it I liked, but this is a pretty good example of why I don't think having both of them on the same night was a good idea, nor do I think having these matches the way that they have evolved in the modern sense is good either. You know, they're essentially weapons matches that drag on far too long. I've gone time and time again complaining about War Games and how much I hate the War Games concept. I'm not going to belabor the point because I'm going to have to do it again when they do them for Survivor Series. I'm going to have to complain about the War Games concept. It's going to be the same problem every time. Same problem every time. But we're going to start with the men War Games match because it's the main event. No, it is the Blood and Guts match. You know, your world champion. We're going to talk about what he had to say later because we got to talk about that dork. He's a fucking dork. Blood and Guts, Team Moxley versus Team Darby. Team Darby wins. So this was an interesting, very interesting story that they decided to tell here. And I was bored for large parts of this match. I'm not going to lie to you. Wheeler Yuta started it and I was not interested. So Yuta is involved. It's not my favorite idea. Okay, so they decided to tell this story throughout the evening. Mark Briscoe was supposed to be third for his team. He doesn't come out because he had been attacked backstage. We found out later he was attacked by the Don Callis family. Then they just basically wait until the last time. And it's announced that, you know, Briscoe ain't coming. So they're going to have to fight 5-on-4. All right, that's a good way of, you know, avoiding the fact that the baby faces had the numeric advantage here, which makes no sense and never should happen ever, ever, ever. But at least it makes some sense here because they're going to say, okay, we're going to write Briscoe out of the match. Well, Briscoe shows up anyway because reasons. There was a whole lot. Now, he doesn't factor into the finish, however. He doesn't factor into the finish. So there's that. Then you've got Moxley. When Moxley arrives, he starts stabbing people. Stabbed Kyle O'Reilly, stabbed Roderick Strong. He's stabbing them with forks, by the way. Stabbed Kyle O'Reilly with a fork. Stabbed Roderick Strong with a fork. Stabbed Darby Allin with the fork. Him and Daniel Garcia collaborated in stabbing Darby Allin and raking the fork across his back. And Mox obviously was involved with some of the more hardcore elements. Him and Daniel Garcia once again worked together to give a spiked pile driver to Darby Allin onto some broken glass. Daniel Garcia had to then sell that he had glass in his ass, which was stupid, of course. Then Moxley dragged Darby Allin across the glass, which was incredible, I must say. Darby Allin was in for it as he was attacked by a guy by the name of Gabe Kidd, you know, the John Moxley lookalike. He had a taser. He attacked Darby Allin. They actually lynched Darby Allin temporarily to get him on top of the stage. It was Gabe Kidd and Pac. While Pac dealt with Darby Allin on top of the stage, Gabe Kidd set up tables and lit the tables on fire. Pac bench pressed Darby Allin, threw him off the stage, through the burning tables. Nasty spot. Absolutely gross spot. It was a damn just spot of the match, that's for sure. Obviously, and I was surprised to see it, but Darby did not come back after this. I was very surprised by that. Moxley is stapling Orange Cassidy's hands into his pockets, which was the dumbest fucking spot in the entire match. And that says a lot, if we're being honest. For it to be the dumbest spot of the match, it says a lot. Anyway, the big comeback is when Orange Cassidy frees his hands from his pockets to throw very bad Superman punches that don't look like he could break an egg. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Moxley starts strangling Kyle O'Reilly with the Bulldog choke. He even wrapped a chain around his head. At this point in time, Kyle O'Reilly is bleeding like a stuck pig. And I started thinking to myself, Kyle O'Reilly he bladed. Isn't he diabetic? I don't think blading and bleeding is a good idea for our diabetic, huh? I don't know. Maybe it's fine, but it feels like a bad idea to me. Anyway, Moxley is bloody. He's strangling a guy with a chain. And for some reason, even though he has full advantage, Kyle O'Reilly gives him the middle finger because this is AEW. And if you're in a submission hold or something like that, giving a guy the middle finger is a good way of getting him to just let the move go, I guess. I don't know, man. Whatever. Anyway, Moxley let him go. And the two of them start to exchange submissions here near the end. But there's people fighting in other places. Mark Briscoe has lured Wheeler Yuta atop the cage where he gave him a J driller on top of the cage. Lord have mercy. Wheeler Yuta did not come back after that either. There was also a big table spot featuring Mark Briscoe, but I forgot what happened. I don't think I wrote it down. Doesn't matter. Because near the end stretch there, Moxley is trading submission holds with Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly catches him in the ankle lock. Moxley flops like a fish. He then, sweeps out of it into the Bulldog choke. Kyle O'Reilly counters the Bulldog choke into an armbar, which Moxley fights out of using his foot. And as he uses his foot, he gets caught in the ankle lock again. And then Moxley tapped out. He loses by submission. So Kyle O'Reilly is the hero of the match, having made Jon Moxley submit, completing the story they've been telling for the entire month of October between the TV feud between Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley. So I liked it for that perspective, even though I don't necessarily think this was the right. Unless Kyle O'Reilly is going to be one of your next guys, meaning you're going to move him up the card to be a main event level guy, I'm not sure he should be standing tall at the end of the Blood and Guts or special match. Now, it's a great coup for him. It's a great feather in his cap that he won the big one in this context, beating Jon Moxley. And it's obviously great for Jon Moxley's character arc, as when in these matches he can be as violent as he wants to be, but if you put up some resistance, he kind of starts falling apart, which kind of tells the story of Jon Moxley over the last couple of months. So at least all of that made sense, but I still find myself saying they tried too much here. But that's generally how these matches are structured now. There's fire, and there's people falling off things. There's weapons. There's tons of blood, but none of it looks realistic. How the match broke down into a technical wrestling match near the end was actually kind of refreshing, if I'm going to be honest. And a guy winning with a regular submission hold. Pretty solid. It would have been nice, though, if they'd actually took some time to, tell the story of Moxley, what happened to Moxley's leg. Like if somebody would have just, hit Moxley in the knee with or the ankle with a bat, or you got bats on shit all over the place anyway. If they'd have done something to twist his ankle or whatever in order to set that up, it might have been just a little bit better. But they wanted Kyle O'Reilly to be the star of the match, which is fine, but so it is what it is. It is what it is on that. Can't be mad, but it's not really my thing. Y'all know how I feel about Jon Moxley and all of these guys. At some point, you would have to think the Death Riders would move on in terms of Moxley has proven himself to be completely and totally ineffectual. And you think a a pack of jackals at some point would decide that Moxley is more of a hindrance than a boon, and they would get rid of him. I mean, now you got Claudio, even though he doesn't win all the time, he's killing guys, and Pac literally set a dude on fire in this match because Darby was on fire after he got thrown off the top of that thing. Then you also got that Gabe Kidd individual who they apparently like a whole lot. So you really could do something with Moxley. I guess this would be the end of his character arc, is him being exposed as a clown, you know, and having to be replaced in the Combat Club or whatever they call it. What the hell do they call it? The Death Riders. But I don't know. There's nobody there that could take over. There's nobody there who could talk, you know, and that's the problem. If you wanted to write him out of the story, who would you replace him with? So he kind of has to keep going. You know, nobody else in the goddamn faction can talk. He built a faction around people who, Pac looks great. Claudio looks great. But the rest of them, not so much. And nobody can fucking talk. There's no talker in the group. So I guess they can't do the old, they're going to kick Moxley out and run the thing on their own, because who's going to do that? Unless they're going to bring in somebody new to be the leader of the Death Riders. But I don't know, maybe Pac can get away with it. Maybe Pac could be the leader of the Death Riders. What do you think about that? Anyway, Kyle O'Reilly is their guy now, so I'm wondering what's his ceiling. Are they going to have Kyle O'Reilly wrestling for the world title? That would be the only way I would put Kyle O'Reilly over in a match like this, is if he's going to be next up. If he ain't going to be next up, then this was pointless. You know, I don't see why he needs to be next up anyway. I mean, Darby already beat Moxley, and apparently he's not going to wrestle for the title or anything like that. So, okay. Next, we're going to talk about the Hangman versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Falls count anywhere. I don't know why this match is falls count anywhere. Just feels like tonight's gimmick night. All right. Powerhouse Hobbs ripped off one of the turnbuckles. Hangman Page could not rip off a turnbuckle. He had to put a little bit more effort in. He finally got that damn turnbuckle off. Powerhouse Hobbs hit a world's strongest slam onto the steps. It was pretty brutal, I must say. There was a particular spot where Powerhouse Hobbs was standing on the desk. I don't know what he was about to do, maybe a power bomb, power driver, or whatever to Hangman. Hangman back body dropped him, and he landed right on his tailbone, and he bounced. Powerhouse Hobbs landed right on his tailbone. It looked like it hurt like hell. Hangman starts his comeback, clothesline him over the barricade. They fighting into the crowd. They have the audacity to say, "Oh, this is like Abdullah the Butcher and Bruiser Brody." I'm like, "Oh, please. Don't do that. Don't do that to these guys, man. It just does nothing but piss people off." Hangman drinks a beer before doing a moonsault off the banister. I was okay. Hangman then takes off his boot as they continue to fight. And he gets Powerhouse Hobbs over the banister, over the railing rather, and he's teetering, trying not to fall off the balcony. Hangman takes off his boot, whacks Powerhouse Hobbs with the boot. Powerhouse Hobbs falls off the balcony onto a table and an equipment box. There's sparks flying all over the place, lights flickering and such. And the Hangman wins the match via pinfall after he goes down and pins Powerhouse Hobbs. Not believable, I must say. Look, it was fine in terms of I knew Hangman would win. I just wanted a solid enough showing for Hobbs. I was disappointed. I don't think he kicked Hangman's ass enough. And he's the world champion, man. Whatever. I knew this was going to happen. There's no point in me getting all tight-assed about it. Let's just move the fuck on, okay? It is what it is. So, as Hangman is celebrating, he's attacked by Shibata. Shibata then feeds him to Samoa Joe. Joe's got a chair. He hits Hangman with the chair. Then Joe calls for them to bring the Cage down. Cage comes down. Hook and Eddie Kingston run into the ring. They help them. Jay and Shibata leaves. Hangman then gets on the microphone, which I wish he had not done, and said, if you wanted to get me in a cage, all you had to do was ask. Challenged Samoa Joe to a cage match at Full Gear, which Tony Khan gleefully, well, I'm sure he squealed in excitement when he, upon approval of that match. Okay. Look, I have no thoughts or feelings or interest at all in Hangman Page versus Samoa Joe being a cage match. I really don't give a shit. If Samoa Joe's not going to win, I'm incredibly frustrated by this. But, as an extra, let's talk about Hangman Page goes on some ESPN channel. He's talking about why he refers to his title as the Men's World Championship. Now, I was going to do a separate video for this, but I realized that this blood and guts thing is actually quite short. So I'm going to just add it here. So he says that the AEW fan base no longer sees the Men's World Championship as the world title, that, women should have equal billing, and he wants to get rid of this hierarchy between men and women. And he doesn't want people thinking that the women's world title is less than. And look, we all just need to be good people like Hangman Page. That's what it boils down to, man. All of you misogynists out there who think that just because you're a man, that you are the main event, that you are the guy who's supposed to sell tickets. No, that's not your job. Your job is to be equal to the women. That's what your position is in life, is you're equal to the women. You have to flatten all these hierarchies. This is why I refer to him as the hang person. Because if you have men and women, then obviously people are going to see the man as being the main event. So I don't want people to mistake him for being a main event world champion. So I'm not going to call him Hangman. He is the hang person. He is the HANGMXN. Hangmixon. All right. From this point on, just like when they was misspelling woman with the X, Latinx, that's what we're going to call this guy. We're trying to eliminate all gender hierarchies, anything that might disturb the spirit of the force, that might confuse the message. We need to get back on code. We all need to be good people like Hangman Page. Because heavens to Betsy, if somebody thinks that you being the world champion means you're the top guy and selling the goddamn tickets, why would anybody suspect you for being the guy who sells the tickets around there? Especially since nobody's fucking buying tickets. Half of the goddamn Dynamites look like Evolve tapings. What the hell's going on? You worried about this? You worried about the wrong fucking thing. Try to figure out how to draw some money. Have mercy, Jesus, man. Every time he says something ridiculous, I gotta remember, this guy used to be a teacher, right? I don't know what he used to teach, but he reminds me of that teacher from Beavis and Butthead, the one that always wears the peace symbol. Okay, we have to flatten these hierarchies, okay? Can't have people thinking that the women are not main event caliber talents, okay? Do you understand? This is why I call it the Men's World Championship, okay? Get the fuck out of here, you certified, bona fide, flea-flicking fucking dork. I like this guy less by the week. By the fucking week. God, he probably was the one teacher that got shoved in the lockers. This dude is a fucking bum. Let's move on. Frustrated now, man. I'm talking myself into a state of being angry. The women's blood and guts match, which is even more ridiculous than the men's. Team Mercedes Moné defeat Team Chris Statlander. I don't know if these were technically the leaders of the team, but that don't matter. These are the people who are on the team. I don't give a shit. Sky Blue was bleeding. My goodness. She bled the entirety of the match. She was the first one in. She was bleeding before the third person came out. I mean, she was leaking. She was screaming at the cameras, bleeding all over the place. And all I kept saying online is how she's living her dream. She's always wanted to do a blood and guts match. She's living her dream. This is the wrong way to watch this match. It's the wrong way to watch this match. That's part of what the problem is with wrestling now, is people don't live in the moment. They're not looking at this thing and being like, damn, she fucked up in there. What could this mean for her ability to perform later? It's like, look at my little baby girl. I remember when she was on, what was the show they had on? AEW Dark, and now she's in the first Women Blood and Guts match. Oh my god, she's so cute. Meanwhile, she's covered in fucking blood, screaming at the camera and stuff. I'm like, man, she's trying to be a badass, and y'all treating her like a grandma and pinching her cheeks. What are you doing? Watch the match properly. Anyway, Chris Statlander came in. She was still wearing the championship, hitting people with kendo sticks and such. It was crazy. Yes, every woman came out with her own unique weapon. It was like a video game, but you know, it is what it is. Mercedes Moné, she came out. She used all of her championships as weapons. And this match started the weird thing of these people just leaving the ring. She opened the door, stepped out, and started bringing all of her championships into the ring as weapons. Okay, whatever. Marina Shafir came out. She was wearing shoes when this whole thing started. She attacked Chris Statlander, was choking Chris Statlander. And then Chris Statlander kind of fought off, and then Marina Shafir kicked Chris Statlander onto a bed of nails. Yes, sir, you heard that correct. There was a bed of nails in the women's match. And it was in the middle of the match and factored 0 into the finish. A bed of nails. And it factored in no way into the goddamn finish because it was outside the ring. Jamie Hayter powerbombed Sky Blue off the cage onto a table that did not break. Then she followed it up with an elbow, and it still did not break. That table is made out of Darby Allin's DNA. Mercedes Moné flipped out when Harley Cameron broke out with the puppet. And then Mercedes Moné snatched the puppet and threw it, only to reveal that Harley Cameron had brass knuckles underneath. She then decked Mercedes Moné with the brass knuckles. I actually like that spot. As silly as it is, as over the top as it is, it makes good sense. I like it. It was good comedy. Julia and Tekla used their very small bodies to slip out of the cage. They climbed through the trusses. And I was like, whoa, what is this? It's like a prison break. So Julia and Tekla, they attacked the referee and stole the key. They then opened the door to the cage. And Mercedes starts throwing people out of the match. And what happens is these folks start to violently hit the corner of the barricade, violently hit the stairs. she's tearing these people up as she's launching them out of this. It was so ridiculous. I don't know why they were doing this, but they started doing it, okay? Statlander then caught Mercedes and gave her a Samoan drop off the cage through a table. A lot of people were very upset. They complained a lot that Mercedes didn't really do anything in this match. She didn't really take any. This is the biggest bump she took the whole night. Nor did she bleed. She didn't do anything that got anything to do with like some of the other stuff we're going to talk about in a second. She avoided all of that. The glass, the mirror, the blading, she did none of that. Are you surprised? She's never had to do it before, so why is she going to start doing it now? Just to please the internet dorks? No way. No way. Toni Storm, on the other hand, all for it. Toni Storm dumped some glass in the ring, DDT'd Marina Shafir onto the glass. Marina Shafir then... No, wait, this part was funny to me. So, somehow, Toni Storm appeared with a mirror. I don't know where she got a mirror from. But after she DDT'd Marina Shafir into the glass, and which was broken champagne bottle, she leaned it up against Marina Shafir's face. Marina Shafir, for some reason, grabbed the mirror and was holding it. I was like, why would you hold it? And then she was going to come and do the hip attack into the mirror, into the face of Marina Shafir. But as she was running, Marina Shafir jumped up and threw the mirror into Toni Storm's face, broke glass all over the place. Glass just shattered. It's all over the place. Obviously, Mercedes is far away as possible from the broken glass. She wants nothing to do with that. Mina Shirakawa attacked Megan Bayne. She was hitting her in the leg with the barbed wire bat. She didn't put her in a figure 4 leg lock while the barbed wire bat was in place, like, tied in there. It was actually a pretty neat looking spot, and I thought for a second Megan Bayne might quit. So they actually tricked my brain for a little bit there. And then Marina Shafir popped up, and she grabbed Mina and started putting her in a chokehold. The rest of the heels grabbed Toni Storm to restrain her, and they forced her to watch as Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir choked and whipped Mina Shirakawa. They whipped her with one of the belts, and Mina was being choked by Marina Shafir, and she couldn't move. It was like that scene out of Casino where Nicky is watching his brother get beat with bats, and Toni Storm quits to save Mina Shirakawa. This was not a good finish. I did not like this match. What a mess it was. They tried to do too much, as usual. I mean, the women were acting like they were going to get one chance at this. You only got one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. When opportunity comes once in a lifetime. And that's what they did. They decided, we only get one chance at this, so we're going to have a bed of nails, we're going to have a mirror, we're going to have glass, we're going to have, people getting whipped, and we're going to do everything. People are going to sneak out of the cage. Sky Blue's going to bleed to death in there. Other people were bleeding too, but Sky Blue probably bled more than anybody, and she definitely, by the end of the match, her blood had dried up. But, the part of this thing is it actually devalues blood. And that's one of the things, too, that I really didn't talk a lot about. But somebody like Mina Shirakawa was bleeding in this match, and it's not an important element of the match because pretty much every other person was bleeding. And it wasn't really all that important. And I've never seen a bloody Mina Shirakawa before. And they didn't actually use it. The same thing with Sky Blue being bloody. I think part of it is how blood is used in wrestling. Everybody thinks that they're Stone Cold Steve Austin now. That when you bleed, you fire up. Yeah! It's like, not everybody. Sometimes the blood is supposed to trickle and make you weaker. Because that's scientific, right? In science, if you bleed a lot, you start getting tired. You start getting weaker from blood loss. And you actually factor that into the psychology of your match. So if you're bleeding really early into the match, you should be basically immobile almost 40 minutes later if the match is still going on and you're still bleeding. But obviously she's clotted by that time. But still, you're supposed to, that's what blood is supposed to do. It's supposed to lead people to believe that you're vulnerable. Not that now is the time you're going to power up. Now you're ready to kick some ass because now your blood's pumping. That's pro wrestling stuff, which is fine. But everybody shouldn't be able to do it, and everybody shouldn't be doing it. Sometimes the easiest story to tell is the simplest one. That people are bleeding, and therefore they're lethargic, they're tired, it's harder for them to go. I'm pretty sure Megan Bayne was bleeding too. Like wrestling, AEW wrestling is so much, it's action. So it's always action, action, action. They never take the time to think about drama. And drama is a bigger part of pro wrestling. It is the biggest part of pro wrestling. Not just how many moves you can do or how many cool weapons you could use or how many tables you can break or mirrors or whatever. It's drama. Getting people to buy into what they're seeing on screen. And AEW routinely misses the mark on getting people to buy into what they see on the fucking screen. For comparison's sake, when they did the blood spot with Gunther in WWE, that was actually a little bit more believable. He saw his own blood and he freaked out because people freak out when they see their own blood sometimes. If you've ever been, cut open and it's been a really bad cut, especially for people who have been shot or stabbed or something like that, they might almost have a panic attack when they see that they're bleeding like this. That's a human response. It's not, yeah, now I'm a badass because I'm bleeding, man. It's like, you have a panic attack, freak out. Like that might, having all these different unique ways of responding to the same stimuli is what can make stories different. I don't understand why AEW chooses to treat everybody like they're Stone Cold Steve Austin because they saw WrestleMania 13. Oh yeah, he's bloody. But they missed the point of that. Like he was bleeding and he fired up, but eventually the blood loss knocked him out. Right? Like everybody knows that match chapter and verse. How do you miss that part? Now we've got all these indie wrestlers who bleed for 15 fucking 20, 30 fucking minutes. Like how? Like in a real fight, if you're bleeding that much, they will stop it. Right? In a boxing fight, in a UFC fight, if you're bleeding that much, they're going to stop it because they know that your life is in danger. In a pro wrestling match, you just keep going and going and going and going. It's like, what the hell? You're showing no signs of being tired or weary or anything. It's just absurd. But the point of this match was to inform about the women's tag team championships. Clearly, they are setting it up that Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa are going to be back for vengeance against Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. And that was the story coming out of this thing. Yes, they did a little something with Statlander and Monet, but this story was mostly about Toni and Mina. Even though the match is happening because of Tekla and her girls against Jamie Hayter and her friends. They played the background in this thing, even though they were the backbone of the storyline to why the match existed. That should tell you that nobody gives a shit about them. All right, let's do some house cleaning. The Don Callis family jumped to Jurassic Express. They did this for the Young Bucks. They're still trying to woo the Young Bucks into joining the Don Callis family. Obviously, the Don Callis family are not going to have the Young Bucks in it. And they're just setting up a reunion of the Elite to have some people to fight. Also, apparently, Okada was formally chosen to be Tanahashi's final opponent in New Japan. So everybody who thought it was going to be Shinsuke Nakamura, myself included, are being very disappointed. Even though I really am not that disappointed at all about it. Somebody went through their Rolodex and found the phone number to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, woke him up, and then promised him endless butterscotch candies if he showed up to do an angle with FTR. So he showed up to do it. Obviously, this was just a vehicle so that the piss drinker and the guy who watched him drink his own piss could show up and make the save, which they did successfully. Whatever. Ricky Steamboat got a paycheck, which I thoroughly enjoy. And there was no Ric Flair. And it seemed like Ric Flair was supposed to be there. I had heard that Ric Flair was supposed to be at this show. But he didn't show up. So we don't know. Maybe there's going to be stories about Ric Flair hearing about the creative and walking out. Bryan Danielson had to have the talk with Ric Flair. Hey, Rick, what you're doing, it's not what we're looking for. Did you hear that ridiculous story? That now they're just piling on to Tegan Knox. My goodness. They're saying now that these girls got to sit down by Bryan Danielson, who told them that the match that they had on November the 1st was not what AEW was looking for. Then why the hell did you offer them another match the next week? What is going on here? It's just ridiculous, man. That's just so bad. They're piling on. They probably gonna find some new stuff to talk about. They didn't call Nixon Newell a drunk. Say she stormed out of Collision to go pound beer at the bar. Now they're saying that the both of them had gotten sat down by the principal of the class, Brian Danielson, and told that their work wasn't good enough. If that's the case, Danielson needs to sit everybody that was on this show down to have a conversation with them about their work. That's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. No one does it better.